Again, have you?
Yeah,
Have you?
yeah.
Why have you done that?
You're done.
I'm just tired.
We are in the garden, mate. It's got me thinking quite a lot. You know, this time of year, Mitch, Arctic Whisky Festival, Spirit of Speyside Festival, Glasgow Whisky Festival, National Whisky Festival, Cinderella Cruise, Limburg Whisky Fair, Whisky and All That by Rabbie's Drams, Whisky Live London, Fegil, Highland Whisky Festival TBC. Not happening this year, I don't think, but it's a great event and it should happen again. And mate, it's all happening in May and June. What a couple of months. And mate, we're delighted to be back out there seeing people from all corners of the industry. Now, it's confession time, Mitch. Despite you and I having decades of experience within the whisky industry, we're ashamed, we're embarrassed, we're unsettled at the fact that this is our very first Campbelltown Whisky Festival. Hang your head in shame, Mr. Beshard.
Indeed.
It has long been a stain on our integrity and credibility, and I am delighted to announce that we have taken action on such a thing. And we've decided to get our arses down to the Campbelltown Whisky Festival. I am Daz, and as always, I am joined by my pearly-toothed, paddle-boarding, energetic, high-octane chum, Mr. Mitch Beshard, aka the Whisky Penfold, in the exquisite surroundings of the Ardshiel Hotel here in the beautiful old town that is Campbelltown. How about that, Mitch?
Mate, that's an intro.
Is the episode over now? Have we run out of time?
Yeah, let's just call it. Let's put the outro music on and let's call it a day. No, thanks for that, man. I'm not sure about the Whisky Penfold thing, though. I'll take everything else apart from the Whisky Penfold thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice intro, mate. I like that.
Cheers.
We literally just arrived in Campbelltown. I drove all the way down here. I think it was 4 hours and change for us to get from Edinburgh. We're out in the gardens right now in the Ardshiel Hotel, so you might get a little bit of wind noise. We've got a couple of whiskey guys that we've just met sitting at the table next to us as well. Travelled up from, one was all the way from Vietnam.
Yeah, it's a great effort.
So yeah, that was a good effort. Good to see like people coming from all around the world again for
it was
whiskey
easier for him
festivals,
to get here than it was for the two lads from Peebles.
And there's one guy from Wales, so we joked that it would have been easier coming by boat.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be here. I mean, last time we were here was 10 years ago, and that's both you and I.
Yeah.
And
It was probably not at a similar time.
Seems like a nice energy, right?
there.
You've not started yet, have you?
We have started.
All right.
But
Just quickly, your table number 63, okay?
Okay.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much.
You're going to be in the podcast now.
I know that's it.
Oh,
You just did that. You just did that to be in the podcast, didn't you? Yeah, mate. No, it's cool to be down here again and see what. I'm interested to see what the week is going to bring us.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, look, everything we're seeing as we've driven through Campbelltown is a very different place to what I remember it being all those years ago. And the reality is that Campbelltown is making waves, and it's so cool to see. Think about what's happening with Springbank. Can't get a bottle, can't get a sample of it anywhere, right?
Yep.
Glen Scotia, one of our favourite whiskies, absolutely brilliant. We're so lucky to be down here, and Campbelltown it seems to be happening in this part of the world.
And you know, everything kind of on the line here. Glen Scotia has brought us down to Campbelltown, so thank you very much for Glen Scotia.
Special call out to Nick Bradley, who I do know listens to the show. Massive thanks, mate. Very, very much appreciated. And
So they are our sponsors of the Campbelltown edition of this podcast, which is great.
within about 5 minutes of us arriving, we had a glass of Glen Scotia Festival Edition, 8-year-old, Pedro Jimenez finish, 56.5%, and 55 quid, mate.
Oh, really? For that bottle?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about for the dram.
No.
I was going to say, holy shit.
No, not for the dram, but for the bottle. You should still say, holy shit, it's unbelievable.
That's a good bit of juice for that. Yeah, so thank you very much for Glen Scotia. And we're sitting outside right now as well. Believe it or not, we're in Scotland. We're sitting out in the beer garden, smoking a cigar, having a little beer, and having another Glen Scotia. So
Working very hard, Mitch.
yeah, I think it was a good start.
Yeah.
Good start to the Whisky Festival.
Absolutely, bro. Nice.
Just that. Right there, so let's not mess around here. Our good friends at Glen Scotia have had us along for the day. It's been absolutely amazing, and you know, things never turn out to plan, right? And we kind of do this scripted, but we don't do it scripted. So right now we're still in the Dunnage warehouse after doing an amazing tasting with Iain and Charlie. We've still got the microphones attached to the cask here.
Yeah.
Iain, thank you so much for joining us. You know, it's been great hanging out with you for the last couple of days. We've had dinner together. We've done tastings together. It's like we've broken bread, you know, and we're all good friends now. It's so nice to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Fantastic, guys. It really is. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to spend time with you.
What's been fascinating, and Mitch and I actually through lockdown, we started the podcast in lockdown, and one of the first whiskies that Mitch and I actually really appreciated together was the Glen Scotia Festival release in 2020, or no, it was 2019. It was the port 14-year-old peated version.
Yes.
It was absolutely sensational, and Mitch and I became kind of fanboys of Glen Scotia thereafter. And then we started to find out a little bit more about you, distillery manager, of course, and actually you've been here for about 14 and a half years now, and you've got an interesting background, mate. I mean, there's a few distillery managers and blenders we've met recently who are not coming from the conventional routes, shall we say.
Yes.
Yeah, how did you end up here? I know it's an obvious question, but we do need to ask it, and we'll get on to the other good stuff after that, the juicy stuff. Yeah.
How did I? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, when you look back, yeah, absolutely. You know, I think I was incredibly naive when I rocked up at Glen Scotia. I was engineering, so I worked with the local water provider, Scottish Water, known to others. Fantastic job, and I always had a inherent interest in whiskey and the history of Campbelltown. So it was natural progression for me. The job, as I say, I was naive, incredibly naive.
What did you start as?
I started back in the day. When I left the school, I went to the fishing.
Right.
So I was a fisherman initially. That was my first job, if you say. You know, I never really had a desire to go too far. So I was always here. I was always hanging about the place. That's where I started, and pushed on from that. You know, we spent a while in New Zealand, myself and my wife, expecting the first child, so we came home. It was natural progression for me. I ended up with Scottish Water Engineering again, so I didn't need to go away. I studied for an honours degree in engineering, done that online myself. So,
right.
And it was the job at Glen Scotia came up, and I think this is a good indication of the state of the industry at that time. Pretty much no one wanted the job.
Was the job distillery manager?
Distillery manager.
Straight in. First job in whiskey, distillery manager.
Straight in.
Mate, you don't fuck about, huh?
Straight into the job. Straight into the job.
No kissing, just straight in there.
Straight in there. No foreplay. That's it.
That's mad. I didn't realise that, right? Because usually, I mean, when someone's been in 15 years, they've come in, they've rolled barrels about, they've done the turn room, they've done the stills, and then eventually they become a manager, I guess. But coming in as a distillery manager, how did it go down with the guys when you came in? No experience in the industry. Was it difficult, or was it?
Well, no. I mean, it was, when you think of the way the place was at the time. And I think that's the secret why that happened. I mean, when I came in here, there was basically two other guys. There was a mashman, if you like, and a distiller, Jim. So, I mean, they were fantastic. They obviously, at the early days, they guided me. There was actually the previous manager, the incumbent, Mr. Hector Gart, wonderful fella. He was here pretty much for a couple of months before I left. So there was a small handover period, but it was really pretty much looking at everything. My boss at the time was a guy in Loch Lomond, Mr. John Peterson, fantastic guy, one of the unsung heroes of the whisky industry. And he taught me a lot. He was pretty much a scientist, an academic. So he was into his fermentations and everything about whisky, but he never visited me. So it was pretty much down to myself.
Right.
Working with the guys, David, Jim, fantastic guys. So there was, I think there was acceptance, so they accepted me, obviously. We got on really well, and it was from there, it was really just building the distillery up. It was building it up to the stage where the Loch Lomond group took over, taking on more guys, building up the team, developing it. So it's kind of worked. I know it's not the conventional route, but at that time it worked. It probably wouldn't have worked now for anyone doing it now, but it was just the state of the industry at that time. It really worked.
Right. So, Iain, let's talk about that. So you come into this distillery, right? Glen Scotia, so much history, so much heritage, and you're literally put in charge of this. And how I can't imagine how that mindset was for you. Was it kind of overwhelming?
It was. When I look back now in hindsight, I was incredibly naive to what was, ahead of me, because there was so much to do. There really was, because it pretty much been running. It was started. The distillery was started up again in 1999, May 1999, by John and a team from Springbank at that time.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So they got it up and running. So, but it was running, and then it had been allowed to maybe lapse a little bit. It went back a little bit. So it was running, but obviously to take it to the next level, there's so much needed looked at, engineering-wise, process-wise, spirit-wise. So if probably at the time, if I knew what was ahead of me, I wouldn't have bothered.
Really?
It was a lot. I think it really became, more than a job. It's not the kind of thing you take on just for a job's sake.
No.
It's
You
a way
can't
of
leave
life.
it. You can't leave at 5 o'clock, right?
You can't leave at 5
No,
o'clock.
I get that.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to pick your brains about Glen Scotia Victoriana, because for me, that was my eye-opener for the brand. And if anyone's listening right now hasn't tried it, go out, buy a bottle, go to a bar, get yourself a dram of it, because it's absolutely stunning. Let's chat about that kind of expression and what you did to pull that together.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the Victoriana, obviously, it's more or less meant to represent that Victorian era. So you get that robustness, that oily, complex whiskey, which potentially was in that era. It's obviously not a direct representation, but it's obviously meant to symbolise whiskies from that era.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly important, I think, for Campbelltown region to have whiskies like that. Luckily enough, Glen Scotia, obviously the new make spirit, has a lot of the characteristics from that era. So, putting the cask work together, and as I say, it's quite complex. You could be 50% first fill bourbons, 50% second. You're going to obviously vat them together into 30% heavily char PX butts, 70% heavy char, heavy burn alligator char, and that American oak. Leave them for 12 months, take the two different liquids, marry them together in potentially a second fill bourbon cask, and leave them and bottle it at 54.2%.
It's a cask strength, eh? I mean, it delivers, man. And we've tasted. We've had a few glasses of that over the last couple of days, and it's just a brilliant reminder of how good Glen Scotia is and can be.
Our New Year's episode, by the way, we put that in our top 5.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
He did. I didn't. I don't agree with Mitch on a lot of things, so I chose the seasonal release.
Iain,
to be honest, is that
You can
You get with that well.
But there's a lot of our listeners who are yet to try Glen Scotia. That it is one of those brands. It's a discovery single malt. I think it's fair to say, and it'll be one of those ones when people stumble across it, their eyes will very much be opened, their minds will be blown. What is the secret sauce? What's the unicorn tears? What is it that's happening in Glen Scotia that creates these brilliant combinations of flavour? And actually, what I'd like to ask you, Iain, is what is the house style of Glen Scotia? You know what I mean? Because we've tasted some brilliant products today, and you've given us a great insight into that.
Well, I think, if you look at the house style, I think what you've got with Glen Scotia is absolutely, it's a Glen Scotia Campbelltown new make spirit. So you're really getting that robustness, but it's accessible. You're getting the salinity. We talked about all this, guys. You get the salinity, you're getting the oiliness, you're getting the coastal effect, you're getting the maritime influence there. But you're getting that, you need a flavour profile. So it's all very well having the main components, but you've really got to have something that carries it off for you. And if you've got a flavour profile, whatever you do with that, whatever wood it goes into, then I think that's important. But these basic characteristics are Campbelltown. That for me, potentially it could be, you could add to it, you could add a slight dirtiness to it. There could be a smokiness.
I see that dirtiness in the smoke. It's a sooty smoke.
Yep.
It's not a clean Kalila almost cedar wood smoke.
No.
It's got that depth, doesn't it?
It's got something funky going on there.
Funky's a great way. I love that description to describe it.
And that's exactly what it is. It's old. When you look at the walls of this warehouse, you know, they're black, they're full of history, they're kind of complex, what's went on in here. And that's exactly Campbelltown, isn't it? You know, everywhere you look, there's a kind of... it's just...
For the listeners who can't see what we are looking at right now, it has to be said, this is a ridiculous... This is definitely the best location we've recorded a podcast in. We're in one of the oldest buildings at the Glen Scotia Distillery. The microphones are on top of a cask. And we're stood with you, Iain, the distillery manager, taking it all in. You know what I mean?
And drinking
it
some
all in.
cask strength Glen Scotia that we just did in your tasting with Charlie McLean, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not a bad day in the office. Let's cheers to that.
Let's cheers to that.
Yes,
boys.
absolutely.
That's
Cheers.
brilliant.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Now, Iain, we were told that there's a word that you like to use when you welcome people into the distillery and you ask questions and things, and actually you haven't said it, and we were meant to call you out on it every single time you said it, and that's fantastic. You haven't done it once.
No, we're gonna disappoint. We had a sweepstake, Iain, on when you were gonna say it on the podcast. You haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it once.
I think I've lost.
I know. Do you know, it's quite funny that, because there was a lot of the Zoom tastings online, you know, and it was actually my wife, Shelley, dear Shelley. She says to me, you know, she says she sees quite a lot of fantastic, Iain, and of course I was looking at them and says, "You're right, I do. Every second word's fantastic. What's going on here?" You know, and it's right, you know, and I do. I think it's maybe not in my psyche, it's not in my mind at the moment. So
They're giving you a complex, man.
I know.
Yeah, when someone says it, you're always all right. I need to take that in the vocabulary.
And of course, you keep saying it. You know, you keep saying it. So, but no, as I say, it's. It's a wonderful, you know, the town itself, wonderful town, it really is. It's got so much to offer. Brilliant.
So let's talk about the festival so far. What's been your highlight? And for anyone listening that is thinking about coming down to the Campbelltown Festival, how would you get them down here? What's your little carrot that you dangle?
I think Campbelltown is quite, you know, I think it's quite accessible. I think it's quite, you know, as festivals go, I think if Isley's the Premier League, we're the Championship here. But I think the Championship's good because there's more scope to maybe get to meet the staff, you know, have a party atmosphere, if you like, you know, in the nicest possible way. I think it's more accessible. What I'm trying to say.
I like that. Yeah. A nice way to meet the players. Right?
Absolutely.
You actually will meet them. You'll spend time with them. You have a beer with them, and it's a really nice way of putting it, actually, because we know that Isla is well trodden.
Yes.
The festival's very well established.
And aside from doing an interview on a cask that you made the liquid for, what's been the highlight so far of the festival for you?
For me, it's always good to, meeting yourself. You know, things like that really make it. It's for me.
Me, not Mitch.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
100%. Just wanted to clarify that. That's
sorry, Mitch, but
I'll just get my coat.
Well, the thing is, Mitch, I mean, your beard's nowhere near as good as ours. So we were chatting about beard oils. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you guys, it was a bit of a beard off last night. I was getting a little bit of beard FOMO or whatever you call it.
You and I will get stuck together if we get too close. Do you know what I mean? You should have put us at the other end of the casket.
No, I mean it is. It's for me. It's great. It's obviously absolutely meeting guys like yourself. You know, seeing a lot of faces I see. You know, I've seen for the last 6-7 years now. You know, seeing them back, seeing everything back to a sense of normality, and just sharing different concepts with the casks and just introducing folk to maybe a different way of thinking with Becky's whisky experience.
Well, just on that, we haven't touched on it yet, but we did catch up with Becky just after it. But that was cool. We did like a sensory experience, didn't we, in one of the warehouses. I've never done a tasting under casks before. So there was a space in one of the warehouses, and I was kind of looking up going, oh, the shit, there's casks above us. You know what I mean? And I backed the warehouse.
Scary if you seen how many was above you.
Totally. I'm sure it was. Totally. And it was carpets, rugs, little couches,
Chesterfields,
and it was really
Yeah,
nice.
nice.
And you guys were challenging our perception of flavour, and it was a ton of fun. And I guess that's the opportunity, isn't it? Is when people do come down for the festivals, try new things, experiment a wee bit. You know, get the samples out that are maybe a wee bit on the fringes of the house style, shall we say?
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
yes,
And have a good laugh. And you guys have done that very, very well. And I tell you what, Mitch, I'm sure you'll attest to this, but it's been a fantastic first experience down here at the Campbelltown Whisky Festival.
100%.
Well,
Yeah.
That's what makes it worthwhile. And for me, that's what it's all about. It doesn't get any better than that for me. You know what you said there. That's it. Job done. You know, brilliant.
Brilliant. Well, Iain, thank you very much for your time. Great hanging
Thank
out
you,
with you
guys.
this week.
Thank you, and I am an ardent follower, so I'll be following you on your podcast now. So yeah, thank you very much.
We'll see you next year, 100%.
If not sooner.
Aye, well, we'll see you before that, I hope. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Becky, brilliant tasting. I really, really enjoyed that. We're deep in the Glen Scotia warehouses here in Campbelltown. Some really interesting ways of perceiving and enjoying flavours. Sonic seasoning and synesthesia.
Yes.
Is it? Thank you. What are you up to here at the festival? What's going on?
I've been creating a couple of whiskey masterclasses called the Whiskey Experiment. I almost forgot what it was called.
Yeah,
I'm just like having a good time.
Yeah.
The Whiskey Experiment. So we've been playing about with the idea of how our environment around us changes our perception of flavour. So we have a couple of control samples, a couple of amazing whiskies, and we are changing a few different elements about our environment inside a warehouse, which is really cool, and just trying to see if we can coax out different flavours within the glass. And it's all based on science and psychology, but we're just having a bit of fun with it, and it's just another way to look at whiskey and just have fun with your dram.
Yeah, no, it's really, really cool. You've decked out the warehouse, you've made it like your own living room, which is really nice. And actually it was, the surroundings, the lighting, the sounds, everything like that added to the experience. So yeah, thank you so much for that. It's our first time, Mitch and I's first time at the Campbelltown Whisky Festival. You've been before, right?
I've been once before, yes, and it's always just a joy to be here, and particularly this year coming back to Campbelltown, because the town seems to have really developed over the last few years. Things have changed, and now knowing that there's so much development coming into Campbelltown in terms of like a couple of distilleries. I know that there's other companies looking to build distilleries here as well. There's I understand Virgin Atlantic doing their galactic space pad thing out by the airport as well. There is so much development going on in Campbelltown, so to be back in the town just now, there's so much buzz, particularly around the Whisky Festival. There was a queue outside the shop trying to buy whiskey first thing this morning, which is amazing. I don't think they've had that before, so it just goes to show Campbelltown is really on the map in terms of whisky festivals.
It's so hot right now. That's can I say that? I can say that. It's not too cheesy, is it?
What, so hot right now?
Campbelltown's so hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not today because it has been pissing down.
yeah, totally. Nah. Thank you so much for the tasting. We'll grab you for a dram at the bar after your events. Thank you.
Rounds on you.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Met up with Derek here. I've been hanging out with him pretty much all week. If you want to check him out, Word is Scotch on Instagram. So Derek, how's your weekend been, man, at the festival here? What's been happening?
Well, it's been fantastic. We arrived on Saturday, and we were part of the Glen Scotia dinner last night, which was fantastic. I was sat in your company last night, and it was
Sorry about that, man.
It was a great evening. Well, that's I'm glad you apologised. No, it's been fantastic, and it's nice to be back in the wee tune and enjoying some great drams here with Springbank and Glen Scotia. So it's been brilliant.
Highlight for you, what's it been?
I would say the highlight for me, the dinner was special. It was good. We got to try some good drams last night, but I'd say today in the Dunnage Warehouse was special.
Which we're in right now, and we just finished.
And Charlie Maclean, of course, being here is fantastic, and Iain McAllister, he epitomises the town. He is Mr. Campbelltown, and it's always a pleasure to be in his company and enjoy a dram, and especially some of these casts that we've experienced today was just special.
Absolutely. Apologise for the background noise. We've still got some reprobates in the warehouse right now. So,
yeah.
But Derek, great to meet you. Thanks very much for hanging out with us and putting up with our chat all weekend.
Well, no, I've enjoyed it. It's been good. Thanks for putting up with our chat. You know, it's been good, and it's good. The good thing about these festivals, Mitch, is that you get to meet some fantastic people in the industry. Yeah. Obviously yourself. you know, you know your subject matter, you've been around the industry, and it's nice to sort of relax with people, have a dram, everybody's different backgrounds, standing in a warehouse like this and enjoying people's company. That's what whiskey's all about. For me, it's about the people, it's about the drams, it's not about queuing for bottles at 3 a.m, it's about actually getting that cask open and enjoying a dram with friends.
Not a bad day in the office.
Oh, it's a great office.
Mate, this is class because we're joined by Iain Croucher, who is the director of North Star Spirits, which is really nice because we are big fans of the bottlings. We see them everywhere we go. Really interested in like the branding and stuff like that. Mitch and I are big fans. But Iain, I met you. I think probably about 10 years ago. You were working for Rattray, I think, back then, right?
Yes, 10 years ago from now, I was with AD Rattray.
That's where you were, wasn't it? Yeah. And like things have changed. You've gone out on your own. You're doing your own thing, and you guys have got some exciting stuff going on. Let's talk a little bit first about the North Star indie bottlings because they look different. They're interesting. How did that come about, man? Was that just from your experience from before?
Yeah. So okay, right. So the I suppose North Star Spirits is quite a basic model on the face of it, but the birth of it really came after maybe 2 bottles of Rioja.
That's a good start, right, to any story, man.
Yeah, but look, I mean, I knew I had supply, and I knew I was blessed having ownership of casks of whiskey that were matured, distilled by incredibly talented working class ladies or men and matured in fantastic wood for over a length of time. And I was the lucky sod at the end of it that got to put it into a bottle and go out and sell it. So the liquid speaks for itself. As I had nothing to do with the actual production and the making of the liquid, it's very comfortable for me to say everything I bottle is, in my opinion, fantastic. Now, as you mentioned, the branding of North Star, how it does kind of slightly stick out and slightly maybe left of centre in the whiskey world. When I started in 2016, and I knew it was, I could visualise it was going to happen, but I wanted a brand that spoke to many. Now, my family and have no history in whiskey, and I had no kind of interest to try to drum up some mediocre story about the past to label. Yeah. So after that 2 bottles of Rioja, I was I thought, well, what does speak to everybody? And then music, right? Okay, music, it speaks to everybody. And then astronomy. I thought, well, astronomy, no matter who you are in this world, no matter however healthy, unhealthy, rich, poor, whatever your
lucky, unlucky, it's like totally, man.
Whatever your vocation, your calling, whatever your religious beliefs, whatever you are in this world, the physics and the math of the stars, it is true and correct, and that is a language that everybody can understand should you wish to learn. So I thought, like, bingo, that kind of is great. Like music, it just speaks to everybody. So astronomy was the kind of the seed that kind of planted the bush, and it grew from there. It was something I could believe in because it was true. It's not some stag's heads or bagpipers or anything that's modern with a traditional feel. I have nothing against anybody else doing that, but for me to be able to go out with longevity and promote something that somebody else made and somebody else matured in a glassware that somebody else made, I'm in the blessed position. My only position is to label that. So by labeling it with every kind of ounce of honesty, and I had to find something dark, deep within that is true and correct.
I love the kind of honesty on the brand, and Daz and I were chatting about this earlier on. I spent a lot of time in the US, and it almost reminds me of that. Like, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but the branding is almost like a craft distillery in the US. It's very modern, it's very fresh, it's got that nice vibe to it. It's something that I think that a lot of modern whiskey drinkers can relate to, right? It's just such a cool brand, man. But let's move away from the bottlings that you're doing right now. Let's talk about your new distillery that we're in Campbelltown right now. You've got these plans for this amazing distillery that's going to happen. Can you give us a little insight into what's happening there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really what a wonderful opportunity I have with you guys just now to kind of stand on a soapbox and talk about it, because it fascinates me how Campbelltown is, people that are blessed with money enough to afford to invest in a distillery have not done it before in Campbelltown. But what everybody needs to realize is Campbelltown is without question one of the most absolutely beautiful places on this planet that we have all got a very small amount of allocated time on. Campbelltown, the time, everything's slower, everything's more precise. The people are just glorious. The banter, the weather, it's changeable. Everything is just fantastic. Right at the base of the entire peninsula. I am just fascinated. And somebody asked me earlier, why now? Why have you chosen to do this now? Well, why is because building a distillery before now was cost prohibitive. I couldn't afford it, but it was an absolute no-brainer that the history with Campbelltown, the environment, the people, just the ethos and the kind of energy is incredible. I mean, I am a relatively simple guy. My business and my whiskey knowledge is not like most, but I certainly can visualize Campbelltown is completely underrated as far as investment goes, and I am without question positive that this is the new wave. If I just don't mind me rattling on for a little bit moment more, there's a fantastic company called Rassay Distillery, the R&D distillers that are building in Maclean, and there's talks of other people building within Campbelltown, and it is incredibly exciting. We are standing on the shoulder of giants with Springbank and Glen Scotia. Glen Scotia, I mean, I'll tell you, is my spiritual home as far as whiskey's concerned. Iain McAllister, the master distiller here, is not even in the whiskey industry, I mean in life. Is one of the most proper, pure gentlemen I've ever met.
It's hard to disagree with that.
Absolutely.
Well, my daughter, who's now 5, she was just born like 2 months old. I kind of needed to do a distillery tour, and I thought, well, if Nina's coming, it's got to be Glen Scotia.
Nice.
It's got to be, And he's a family friend now, and I'm just, I just feel like I kind of know a rock star. It just feels true and right and correct. I'm very blessed to be here. Not a morning goes by I don't, thank, I don't know what's up there, or your stars or your whatever, but, somebody's looking down on me to kind of point me in the right direction, because I feel I'm heading there.
Nice. Mate, listen, really, really cool to catch up. Brilliant to hear about North Star. We're going to be following that big time. We need to get you on to chat through some of the whiskies and taste through some of the bits and pieces that you guys have got coming out. And we need to hear a little bit more about this Campbelltown dream, right? And we're going to follow it big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing it all come to fruition, mate.
Hey, look, I'm really, really delighted that you kind of came and asked me to do this. It's kind of quite nice that somebody wants to hear my waffle. So
got time for it all day, bro.
Thanks for, as my mum always said when I was leaving a party at 3 years old.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Campbelltown Whisky Festival has a couple of celebrities. We've already chatted to Becky Paskin. We're lucky enough to have our good friend Charlie Maclean here.
Welcome back, mate.
Thank you very much indeed. So glad to be back in Campbelltown.
Yeah,
because I was sort of built in with the bricks. The bricks haven't been the Campbelltown Whisky Festival, as far as I'm aware, started in 2016. There may have been kind of residual things in the couple of years before that, but 2016. So I did 16, 17, 18, and then of course it was cancelled 19, 20. No.
Yeah.
Must have.
No, you're right.
I couldn't do 19. That's right, because I had a prior engagement, and so it's
20 was
just
cancelled.
Wonderful.
21 was cancelled, and here we
That's
are,
right.
2022.
And I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the whole town it's done such a lot. Campbelltown is a wonderful, wonderful place, and I so recommend people to come here. Hell of a place to get to, of course.
Yeah.
It's a long way, but it's got a terrific atmosphere, and the wonderful news this year is that there are 2 further distilleries proposed, and really, which will certainly, I think they will certainly come about in the next couple of years. They've got planning applications in as we speak, and a further 2, which are more than a twinkle in the eye. So to restore the reputation of Campbelltown, which went from 28 distilleries to 2 distilleries, but now it's creeping back up.
It's really nice, and Mitch and I had chatted about this, and I read an article that Broomy wrote actually about this as well, which was, whilst we obviously recognise the historical importance of Campbelltown, what we mustn't do is always look back.
Yeah.
It's about looking forward
Yeah,
now, I think, for
yeah.
Campbelltown, and the buzz, the sense of
you
opportunity.
can totally feel that here, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's amazing.
But to be honest, I mean, over the last few years, when people, and I get, you will be as well, but when people say, "Hey, I've got a client who wants to start a distillery," or somebody wants to buy a distillery, and they say, "Well, first, don't." But but second, look at Campbelltown because of its heritage and because it is a category, and although the SWA were swithering about whether to but it is a regional categorization, and the whiskey made here is different from Speyside, it's different from the Lowlands, and so on. And so you're immediately at an advantage if you're launching a whiskey. Currently three distilleries in Campbelltown, and if you're the 4th, 5th, 6th, at least you've got the Campbelltown label.
I kind of wish, this is like one of these surreal moments, Daz, right? We're down in Glen Scotia. We're in a warehouse right now. We've literally got the microphones attached to a cask of Glen Scotia in the warehouse. It's like, I just took a video of it, so we'll post that on social media.
Mate, this is we've been using these microphones for a year. It's the first time I realised the bottom of them is magnetic.
And
we're hanging off of the hoops.
of a cask. It's so
great.
bizarre, right?
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
I wish everyone was here to kind of see this. But so, Charlie, you've been doing a couple of these festivals as well. Any favourite moments? Any kind of moments that stick in your mind down in Campbelltown?
No, that's a difficult question. Because the trouble is, see, when whiskey's involved, you can't remember anything.
Me and Daz get that a lot as well.
I know, but except just terrific, lovely, comfortable feel. I mean, last night we were at this big dinner, and the 3 of us, and I had some fabulous conversations with people who all seem to have been at school together. And most of them had been at school with Iain McAllister, the manager at Glen Scotia, who, by the way, is held in the highest regard by everybody. But they were so open and friendly and cheerful and direct conversation, no beating about the bush, Well, we met the lifeboat.
The lifeguard guys,
That was Raymond, was it?
Yeah, Raymond for the life, yeah.
You had a few stories on him, Charlie.
Yeah,
He had a few stories on him.
I bet. And later there was a couple of younger guys, and they'd been born within days of each other, across the same street in Campbelltown. They went to school, and they're now engineers who are working in. There'll be guys in their 20s, I should have thought. Yeah. And but this terrific sense of community, and a very welcoming community.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between some places. Won't mention any other islands, but where the community is somewhat fearful of incomers, and they're interested and they're welcoming and they're proud. Because Campbelltown, I tell you what, was 30 years ago, it was a grubby old place. It was a dirty old and
It's changed.
depressed.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, last time I was here was 10 years ago, and we've chatted a little bit about this.
We noticed that.
What's the the thing is the cultural significance of a whiskey region, not the distillation prowess. You know, that's part of it, of course.
Yeah.
But the cultural significance, and you feel that here, as you do in Speyside, as you do on Islay, the pride and the historic relevance of distillation and whiskey and all of that.
But I think it's particularly powerful here.
It is. No,
because of the historical importance, and because the Toonies, as they're called, the people from Campbelltown, the Toonies are so proud of their heritage. And you know, if you go, you can do a tour with any of the guys working at the distillery, and she will point out this is where such.
We've got Ben Moore at the back here, right?
Exactly.
Which
Ben
is an old, actually, it's now a bus station, basically.
Yeah.
It's mad.
But honestly, you know, there are ghosts everywhere, and the remains of distilleries and and they're not. I mean, now of course it's ebullient, it's rising. You see, it's a renaissance, if you like. But the memory of the past is not dragging them down.
Feels like an important year for Campbelltown with the 2 new distilleries scheduled, 2 more plans in place, and it has to be said, mate, it's a real pleasure to be down here with you.
Yeah,
it's
great.
Having a few whiskeys. I wish I could say the same,
well.
you know, for Mitch, but you know, I needed to get here and I needed someone to drive me, so that's how it is it?
You had to put that in there.
Sorry, that was quite, it was almost emotional, wasn't it?
No, Charlie, thank you so much for the time and great to chat with you.
Looking
and
forward
hang
to
out
our
with you.
curry this evening.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, thanks, boys.
The highlights for you, man.
I mean, I'm still recovering, dude. That was a big trip. Like, we just got back yesterday. Early start to get back here. I think I just crashed out for about 12 hours straight after it. So I think, it's great because I'm still like computing everything right now, and it's still all going through my head. It seems like we arrived there and it was just go, 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 which was amazing. Yeah, like the dinner at night was really cool. Just sitting with Iain and Charlie. I think that was probably one of the highlights for me. But yeah, I mean, what else? Jeez, there was so many things, Daz. I think going to Glen Scotia and being with those guys, you know, and hanging out with those guys and just getting the treatment that we had was just so cool.
Yeah, no, it was. Like the thing that really struck me, mate, I mean, you spent a lot of time up at Spirit of Speyside, you know, Fej and things like that. We know the distilleries very well on Islay. What really sort of fascinated me about the Campbelltown Festival is it feels like it's in a different era. You know, there isn't a big, globally recognised international brand down there. You know, it's Springbank, it's Kilkerran, and it's Glen Scotia. Those distilleries are small distilleries, and they feel like they're from a different era. They're smaller. They've had less modernisation. You know, and it feels a lot more quaint. And I think I really like that. There's a real charm about the place. And one of the things I really did pick up on, as did you, is the sense of potential down in Campbelltown. You know, as things move forward, there seems to be a little ball of energy ready to sort of get going down there.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, I think it was 10 years ago, what we were saying to everyone was the last time that we were down there. And from that point in time to now, you see such a change in the town. You know, you and I go to a lot of little towns in Scotland, and the sad thing is that the high streets, that you see a lot of to let signs, and you know, a lot of the shop fronts have closed down, and that wasn't the case down in Campbelltown. There was cool little coffee shops, just local businesses, nice little whiskey shops as well. So, you know, anyone who's listening, if you're thinking about going down to Campbelltown, we do highly recommend it now. There's a lot to see and do down there. It's a great part of the world as well.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I'm looking forward to going back down next year.
Yeah, friendly people as well, right? Everyone was super friendly.
Mate, yeah, oh, no, there's no doubt about it. It was, they were very, very friendly until I got booted out of Springbank. Well, we did, yeah.
Yeah, good times, man, good times. All right, so, well, you know, before we go and before we sign off this episode, obviously, big thank you to Glen Scotia for hosting us down there, sponsoring the show. Thank you very much, guys. Really enjoyed the drams as well. I mean, some great drams that we had with them too.
The guys were brilliant. They really, really did look after us. I mean, Iain and his team and Alan down there and Nick and things like that who put this out for us, mate. It was, it was really, really good. And it was good timing, right? Because we kind of fell in love with Glen Scotia around the same sort of time. 12 months ago, 18 months ago through lockdown. Didn't really know the distillery that well until that point, I would say. So yeah, brilliant to get down there and just see it whilst it's bubbling away, you know. And like I say, it's that little sense of potential. I'm really, really excited to see what they get going on Glen Scotia moving forward as well. Obviously, they just launched a 46, which is super cool. And I'm sure they've got loads of more to come from Glen Scotia.
Absolutely, mate. And then for our next episode, what are we doing, Daz? You're sitting down and you did it solo, this one, right?
I did. Sometimes it's better, you know, doing it on your own. And, you know, it was quite nice.
That hurts, mate. Yeah. That hurts.
I know. No, I caught up with Chiara Giovanacci, who looks after Bunnahabhain, and heard a little bit more about, well, actually, I was quite surprised. It took a turn in a direction I wasn't quite aware it would take, where we talked a lot about their sustainability credentials.
All right, guys. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening to our little episode this week. Hopefully you enjoyed our little travels down to Campbelltown, and we'll catch you next time around.
May all your glasses be full, your whiskies be golden, and slightly salty, just like they are in Campbelltown. How about that?
Yes. Yeah. Nice one, man. All right, guys. See you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, lad. Bye.